Well, Jessica, it was a catastrophic disaster at sea, a column of fire blasting into the sky. The explosion happened aboard a mobile offshore drilling unit called the Deepwater Horizon.
Oil is starting to wash ashore in the U.S. state of Louisiana, threatening the coastline's delicate wildlife.
The birds would come in dehydrated, depending on their age. The younger ones were emaciated because they no longer had adults around to feed them. And because of the oil on their feathers, they can't hold their body temperature and they tend to sink. So their temperature had to be raised, and then they would be prepared for wash. The washing procedure is a 3-step wash, wash, rinse. After they finish the rinse, they go to the drying area, and then they are evaluated for release.
58 days after the explosion on Deepwater Horizon, President Barack Obama and BP's top management finally met face to face.
In the beginning of June, liquidity started to be difficult for us. It became very expensive to borrow money. And it wasn't until we got to the White House that became the turning point. That is when we got access again to the financial market in a better way. This was also the time when we communicated the board's decision to cut the dividend. That is probably one of the toughest decisions we had to face in the year because it affected so many people, but that became the turning point.
We agreed with the President and the U.S. government to set up a $20 billion escrow fund that would give them the confidence that we were going to meet our obligations. I think that built confidence immediately in BP's commitment to responding to the accident. I think at that point the President said it was in the best interest of all to have a strong and viable BP, and that stabilized the financial markets, and we've been working ever since to meet our obligations.
We understood early on that we were going to face numbers and numbers of claims, and we have to date almost 500,000 of claims. And that is where we proposed to the White House and agreed on this escrow fund of $20 billion to make sure that people knew that there were money available.
We brought in the best and brightest minds from all across the industry. We came up with numerous different ways of how we could contain the oil, numerous different ways of how we could shut in the well, and we immediately started working them all.
The first thing we did was to start drilling a relief well. And the purpose of a relief well is to basically intersect the original well very, very deep in the formation, such that we can pump very heavy mud into the well and stop it from flowing. While the relief well was being drilled, it was clear to us that we needed to come up with other ways to either collect some of the oil or indeed stop the oil from flowing altogether. And the first thing we did was to deploy what we called a giant cofferdam over the end of the well. It was not successful. The combination of gas and water under pressure created hydrates, crystals, which prevented the cofferdam from working. If we were to make a difference here, we really needed to clean away a lot of the debris and cut a piece of pipe, which is known as a riser. And we deployed these giant shears and we cut the pipe. And having cut the pipe, we now had much cleaner access to the top of the well. And we then went about actually funneling some of the oil back to the surface where we could collect it.
In the gloom of the seabed, progress at last. It looks like oil is still escaping unchecked, but BP is steadily choking the flow.
As we speak, the containment cap is producing around 10,000 barrels of oil a day to the surface, which is being processed on the surface.
Everybody had their job. There was the 2 drilling rigs that were drilling the relief wells. There was the Q4000 that was flaring oil and gas. There was all manner of ROV vessels. At one time, there was 169 vessels within a 5-mile radius around the Macondo well.
We deployed the capping stack, which went down onto the well. This happened in the middle of July, and we shut some valves and actually shut the well in where no more oil was being released to the sea. The final operation was to complete the relief well that we started right at the beginning, and in September the well intersected the original well, and we actually isolated the well and put cement down there such that it could never flow again.
Over time, we've all had to realize we just have to get on with it now and learn the lessons and put them in place inside the company and change the way we operate.
Well, the learnings from this will shape forever, not only BP in its abilities, but also recognizing the depth of trained personnel that we've created as a result of this sustained period of response that are there and available to be used by both our company and the industry if needed. We also clearly have the opportunities to grow these learnings as we take our organizations forward.
We've set up a new, powerful safety and operational risk organization. It reports directly to me. It has a small, centralized team with more than 500 people that work around the globe in BP operations. It is able to set standards. It is able to intervene in operations and provide technical expertise for the company. I'm already seeing changes that this is having across our operations globally.
The company's driving to have risk assessment, risk awareness, risk management deeply embedded in how we think about operations and what we do. S&OR has to be in service of that. The line's got to do it. We've got to be in service of enabling that. We'll have an independent view of it, but it's always got to be the line that delivers it.
Our teams around the world are taking actions every day where if they feel that an operation is not quite right, they will take the action to shut it down and stop until such time as they and we all can be comfortable that everything is okay to proceed.
Safety is our first priority, but it's also about the way we work. It's about how we approach our problems. It's the sensitivity to thinking about risks differently. It's about how we incentivize people. It's about how we get people to think about the long term as well as the short term. We need to look and reward people for characteristics such as building teams, to build complex projects with a sense of managing the risks very well. And I believe that safety always leads to good operational and financial success.
We have actually restructured how we run the business, and we have focused the organization on the life cycle of an oil and gas field. We have the exploration division, whose job it is to explore for oil and gas. We have the development division, whose job it is to drill the wells in the company and to build the projects once the discoveries are made. And then finally, we have the production division, whose job it is to run the production operations and look after the reservoirs within those oil and gas fields. All drilling activity in the world is now conducted through one single organization, operating consistently throughout the world to the same set of high standards. And that's the thing that we believe will make a fundamental difference.